Hello, my name is Jillian Green, and this is my presentation from my paper that was about teenagers, cell phones, and social media use. I got the idea for my project because one day when I was subbing in 8th grade, the 8th grade students and the high schoolers were coming down for a concert assembly to promote the high school anti-drug club. And I noticed a very large percentage of the high schoolers were on their cell phones from the moment that they came in all the way through the end of the concert. And I realized that there has been a monumental shift within the last 15 years to how teenagers interact due to the popularity of cell phones and social media. So my question that I wanted to research was, are cell phones and social media appropriate for teenagers? So in my paper, I explored positives and negatives of both of those things in ways that adults can, parents and teachers can help teenagers learn to bring a balance to their lives. So the positives, I broke this up into 3 sections. The first one, cell phones, keep them within reach and informed. So families today seem to just be busier than ever, with most families having both parental figures working and the many extracurricular activities that teenagers do. There are times that teenagers need to reach their parents because of schedule changes, and the same goes for parents needing to reach out to their teenagers, so I can see the positive aspects of cell phones there. Social media also lets teenagers do good. With the vast global reach that social media allows, teenagers can find others who feel like them and like the same things that they do. This gives them a sense of community that they may lack in the physical community around them, and teenagers can find support during these challenging times in their lives. Twitter, Facebook, and other large social media networks expose kids to important issues from people all around the world, and it lets them do good things. By connecting with others, teenagers can find their voice that they didn't know that they have. They can pursue causes that they're passionate about and share that passion through social media, and even help those causes by hosting gatherings or fundraisers, or even have an item collection event. They also get to share their creations. Social media allows teenagers to write to express their ideas. They can write short stories, opinion pieces, reviews, poetry, and so many other things by creating a blog that they update regularly. They can also get opinions and critiques by others who read their work, though teenagers do need to be mindful that not all criticism is going to be good nor constructive. And social media isn't good for just sharing the written word. Students who paint, draw, sculpt, photograph, or play music can share their talents on social media as well. Instagram is all about the visual, so teenagers can share pictures of their work, and it helps them grow as an artist. Musicians or painters can make videos of themselves and share those on YouTube as well. The negative aspects of cell phones and social media. I actually broke this up into 5 categories. The first one basically has to do with the fact that the teenage brains are just not developmentally ready yet for cell phones and social media. Because cell phones and social media are big responsibilities, and because they can have very serious and possibly final consequences. You know, if a teenager's driving and they're distracted by their phone, it can lead to some very serious consequences. Dr. Jay Geed said that a teenage brain isn't fully matured until they're in their mid-20s. And it's the final section of the brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, which is that area that's just behind like the eyebrows, is that front section of your brain. It's the area that helps in planning, setting priorities, suppressing impulses, and weighing the consequences. That's the area that is the last to mature. And it's once that matures that the brain becomes a more efficient machine. And so teenagers aren't ready for that. That doesn't happen until about the early to mid 20s. Another negative is that it diminishes face-to-face social skills. At young age, humans begin to read and understand social cues from our peers and the adults in our lives. We use those cues to know how we should act and what we should do. Learning those social skills is imperative if a person wants to succeed in the world, and we learn those skills by example. So if during those crucial teenage years, teenagers don't practice and learn those social skills from their peers by interacting with them in person, how are they ever going to develop them? Because those social skills and cues aren't just something that you can read. You have to actually practice them and do them. So if they don't do them then, they basically won't, or they will struggle with learning them in their mid-20s or 30s, which can make their work life and their personal life very challenging. Basically, I like to think of it as Sheldon Cooper. He's not good at reading those social cues, and we see him in, Big Bang Theory trying to work through all of that. Another section that I talked about was that social media was not made for kids. Social media may seem not like a big deal. It's just posting pictures, videos, and words. Nothing much to it. But the big deal are the repercussions from posting in an open forum where anyone can see, misinterpret, or copy what you post. Once something is posted online, it doesn't ever really go away. Yes, you can try to delete it, but there are little pieces of it that still lingers out there somewhere. And it's a common saying in the social media circles that I'm in that nothing travels faster than a screenshot. So if you were to post something that's not very appropriate or negative towards someone, you may delete it very quickly, but somebody might have also taken a screenshot, and it's still going to make its way around to who you were originally targeting. And if they go to do that, you don't have any control over it, and you can't make it stop. One of the things that I found in my research was a study that McAfee had done, and they found that 49% of teenagers have regretted posting something online before. And that number, I believe, will continue to rise in the future as teenagers go off to college and enter the workforce. Sarah Quinn of One Device Research, something that she had to say was, if getting a job was not hard enough in these tough economic climate, 1 in 10 young people have been rejected for a job because of their social media profile. So what these teens are doing online now is having an effect on them and having an effect on their future. And these teenagers they're not able to make those kind of judgment calls right now. The next section I talked about was instant gratification. Having to wait for something that you want is called delayed gratification, which I believe we've talked about this in psychology classes before. So that's delayed gratification is getting something later. So getting something right away is called instant gratification. Learning that delayed gratification is an important skill for an adult in order to be able to achieve their long-term goals, such as buying a house, having a family, or getting a big promotion at work. For today's teenagers, they see those around them and on social media with these major rewards, having money, fame, the latest technology items, and they want to have those items right now. Which teenagers wanting everything that they see, that's nothing new. But from my perspective as an educator, that parents seem to be giving their children all of these technologies just because they want them. I know if I think back to teenage years, did your parents give you all of the same adult privileges that they had? Chances are they didn't. You were taught that they were the adult, you were the child. You have to work to be able to achieve and get those things later on in life, and they're not just handed to you. Also, teenagers having issues with delayed gratification is also because the ability to be able to make those decisions and to wait comes from the part of the brain that's not fully matured yet. And Dr. Geed went on to explain during one of his interviews that delayed gratification is actually the biggest difference between teenagers and adults. When the frontal lobe is finally maturing, that's when it ties everything together, he said. It's at that point that we can start making decisions and take that path where we can start earning those bigger rewards. The last section I talked about was technology addiction. The FCD Prevention Works organization defines technology addiction as the frequent and obsessive technology-related behavior increasingly practiced despite negative consequences to the user of the technology, and overdependence on technology can significantly impact students' lives. And with teenagers spending upwards to 11 hours a day multitasking using technology, it's easy to see how they can become addicted to technology. Also, in recent times, technology and social media have come to fill some of our basic needs, such as stimulation and interaction. So when a teenager feels stressed, there's a technology there to help them fill that void. And after a while, they become accustomed to it, so they do it even more. And then they start to become addicted to it. Just as any other form of addiction, recognizing that there's a problem is the first step in order to get help. Addiction.com has many resources, one of them being a list of questions that you can ask yourself or a family member to see if they suffer from technology addiction, so that way they can start to get help. Teaching teenagers to bring up balance. As adults in a teenager's life, parents and teachers need to be there to guide and to be an example for our young people. So I broke it up into 3 sections. The first one is embrace technology and learn it. Technology is not going away anytime soon. I think we all know that. So rather than running from it, embrace it. Take the time to learn what these new pieces of technology are and what they can do. If you're wondering what that new app is that your teenager is using, just ask them. Have them explain it to you. Do some research online and to find out more about it, and if there are any dangers or anything that you need to be aware of. There are also many Facebook groups out there that are geared towards adults needing advice when it comes to technology. So definitely seek out some resources. Set boundaries and expectations. Teenagers need limits and rules with anything in their lives, and especially is true when it comes to technology and social media. Start with how long you'll allow them to be on that device, and limit where they can have it. Are they allowed to have it at mealtime? Can they have it at family events? Are they allowed to take it to school? And have consequences for breaking those rules. Again, cell phones are a privilege. They're not a right. They don't have to have a cell phone. Also remember that it's a two-way conversation, so it's important to listen to what a teen feels is a fair use and practice before setting the rules in stone. But in the end, you're the adult and parent. You have final say as to what they can and can't do. Also, make your teenager aware that there are many companies out there that have social media and cell phone policies for their employees. If your employer has one, share it with your teenager, or find a company's policy that you think is a good example and share it with them. Show them that there are rules everywhere and you're not just handing them rules because you're a mean adult. That they even have rules in their work. Something I really found interesting was that the Girl Scouts of America even have a computer and online use and safety checklist guide for their troop leaders to teach their scouts. It explains about positives and negatives, aspects of the internet, how to respect copyright laws, and even it talks to them about social media. I think it's really cool that the Girl Scouts have even stepped up and given that whole list and says, here's a good way to approach this. The last section that I talked about was to be an example. Be the example for your teenager. Dr. Geeds said during his interview, Dr. Geeds said in one of his interviews that he's often asked by parents what advice he has for them as a parent. He said that he usually says, look at yourself. How do you manage your anger? Time management. That whole do as I say, not as I do mindset, it doesn't work. Teenagers just see right through that. Teach them by example. And it's all the little things you do. It's not just the big talks that you have. It's all the little everyday things that have an impact as well. Your teenagers are looking to you and how you act to be able to judge what's acceptable and what's right. So if you want your child to stop being on their phone so much, you may want to take a look and see how much time you spend on your phone or computer, especially when you're around them. Because maybe, You know, you may start to realize that maybe you need some